Black Waitress helped an old man daily until his lawyers showed up with 4 Bodyguards Part 1, the morning shift. Morning sun barely touched the horizon when Denise Harper pushed through the glass doors of Riverside Diner. Her worn sneakers squeaked against the checkered floor as she tied her apron strings behind her back. At 43 years old, she'd been serving coffee and comfort to strangers for nearly 20 years. Her hands were calloused, her smile genuine, and her heart bigger than the small Georgia town she called home. The diner smelled like bacon grease and possibility. Denise loved the quiet moments before the breakfast rush, when she could prep the tables and hum old gospel songs her grandmother taught her. She wasn't chasing dreams of grandeur. She was chasing rent, groceries, and her daughter's college textbooks. Simple goals for a simple life. Around 7:30, the regulars started filing in. Truckers, construction workers, retired folks looking for conversation. Denise knew their orders by heart, their stories by memory. She remembered birthdays, asked about grandchildren, and never made anyone feel invisible. Then there was Mr. Lawson. He started coming in about 3 months ago. An elderly white man, probably in his late 70s, with silver hair and kind gray eyes that crinkled when he smiled. He always sat in a corner booth by the window, ordered 2 scrambled eggs, wheat toast, and black coffee. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated, but something about him seemed lonely. Denise noticed how his hands trembled slightly when he held the menu, how he ate slowly like he had nowhere else to be. So she started lingering at his table a little longer, asking him about his day, bringing him extra jam packets without him asking. Small kindnesses that cost her nothing, but meant everything to someone eating breakfast alone. Mr. Lawson never said much, but his eyes would light up when she approached. He always left a modest tip, folded neatly under his coffee cup, and a quiet "thank you, ma'am" that sounded like a prayer. Denise didn't know his story. She didn't need to. In her world, kindness wasn't transactional. It was just the right thing to do. Part 2. The manager's warning. Everything changed on a rainy Tuesday morning. Denise was refilling Mr. Lawson's coffee when her manager, Kevin Braddock, pulled her aside near the kitchen. Kevin was 32, sharp-suited, and always looking for problems that didn't exist. He'd been transferred from corporate 6 months ago with big ideas about efficiency and profit margins. The staff learned quickly that his smile never reached his eyes. "Denise, we need to talk about your table management," Kevin said, crossing his arms. His cologne was too strong, his tone too cold. She blinked, confused. "My tables? Is something wrong? You're spending too much time with that old man in the corner. 5, 10 minutes at a time. This isn't a social club. It's a business." He tapped his expensive watch for emphasis. "Time is money, and you're wasting both." Denise felt heat rise to her cheeks, not from anger, but from embarrassment. She'd been doing this job long enough to know her work ethic was solid. Her tables were clean, her orders accurate, her customers happy. "I'm just being friendly, Kevin. He's a regular." "That's good for business too, isn't it?" Kevin's jaw tightened. What's good for business is turnover. Get people in, get people out. That booth could serve 3 sets of customers in the time you're chatting with one. Do you understand what I'm saying? She understood perfectly. She also understood what he wasn't saying, the unspoken judgment in his eyes when he watched her laugh with Mr. Lawson, the way he scrutinized her more than the other waitresses, the subtle suggestions that she was too comfortable with customers. "I hear you," Denise said quietly, swallowing her dignity. "Good, because next time it's a written warning. We clear?" She nodded, her heart sinking. When she returned to Mr. Lawson's table, her smile felt heavier. He noticed immediately. "Everything all right, Miss Denise?" He asked gently. "Everything's fine, Mr. Lawson," she lied, refilling his water glass quickly. "You enjoy your breakfast now. But nothing felt fine anymore. Part 3. Silent Pressure. Weeks that followed felt like walking on eggshells in steel-toed boots. Kevin watched Denise like a hawk circling prey. Every time she approached Mr. Lawson's table, she felt his eyes burning into her back from across the diner. She started keeping her conversations short, clipped, professional. The warmth she'd built with the elderly man began to fade into hurried pleasantries and apologetic smiles. Mr. Lawson noticed. Of course, he noticed. "You seem rushed lately," he said one morning, his voice gentle but concerned. "Did I do something wrong?" Denise's heart cracked a little. "No, sir. Not at all. Just busy, that's all." But she wasn't busy. The diner had the same steady flow it always had. The only thing that changed was the invisible leash Kevin kept pulling tighter around her neck. Other staff members noticed too. Rita, the veteran cook who'd been flipping eggs since before Denise was born, cornered her in the kitchen one afternoon. "Kevin's riding you hard." "Honey," Rita said, her dark eyes filled with knowing sympathy. "I've seen managers like him before. They pick someone to prove they're in charge. Usually someone who can't fight back." Denise wiped down a tray, avoiding eye contact. "I just need to keep my head down and do my job." "You've been doing your job better than anyone here." Rita squeezed her shoulder. "Don't let him make you forget that." But doubt had already planted its roots. Denise started arriving earlier, staying later, double-checking every order, every table, every interaction. She stopped humming her grandmother's songs. The joy that once filled her shifts evaporated into anxiety and exhaustion. Mr. Lawson still came every morning, still ordered the same meal, still left his modest tip. But now when Denise brought his coffee, she could barely meet his eyes. She felt like she was failing him somehow, withdrawing the one thing he seemed to come here for: human connection. One morning, as she turned to leave his table quickly, Mr. Lawson spoke softly. "Miss Denise, whatever's troubling you, I hope it gets better. You have a light about you. Don't let anyone dim it." She paused, her throat tight. "Thank you, Mr. Lawson. That's real kind." She walked away before the tears could come. Part 4. The breaking point. It happened on a Friday morning, 3 weeks after Kevin's first warning. The diner was busier than usual construction. Crews finishing a highway project. Tourists passing through, regulars crowding the counter. Denise moved through the chaos with practiced grace, balancing plates and refilling coffee like a choreographed dance she'd performed 1,000 times. Mr. Lawson sat in his usual corner booth, eating his breakfast slowly, watching the morning unfold around him. When Denise brought his check, he smiled at her. "Busy day for you, Miss Denise." "Yes, sir. But I like it. Keeps me moving." She set the check down gently. "You take your time now." As she turned to help another table, Mr. Lawson's hand trembled, and his coffee cup tipped over, spilling dark liquid across the table and onto his lap. He gasped, trying to stand, but his movements were slow, unsteady. Denise didn't think. She just acted. She rushed back with towels, helping him dab at his pants, reassuring him it was okay. That accidents happen. She cleaned the table, brought him fresh napkins, even offered to comp his meal. It took maybe 7 minutes of basic human decency. But Kevin had been watching. He appeared beside the booth like a storm cloud, his expression tight with fury barely contained beneath corporate professionalism. "Denise, kitchen, now." Her stomach dropped. "Kevin," he spilled his coffee. "I was just, now." Mr. Lawson looked between them, confusion and concern crossing his weathered face. "Young man, this was my fault entirely." Miss Denise was only helping. "Sir, we'll take care of you," Kevin interrupted with a plastic smile. "Denise, let's go." In the kitchen, away from customers' eyes, Kevin's mask fell completely. "That's it. I've warned you twice. You're suspended." 3 days, no pay. And when you come back, you stay away from that old man's table. Someone else serves him. Are we clear?" Denise stared at him, disbelief mixing with something darker, a quiet rage she'd been swallowing for weeks. "You're suspending me for helping a customer? I'm suspending you for insubordination and poor time management. This is your final warning, Denise. One more incident, and you're done." She untied her apron with shaking hands, her eyes burning with unshed tears. 20 years of service, and this was her reward. As she walked out, Rita caught her arm. "This isn't right, honey." "No," Denise whispered. "It's not. But what could she do? She needed this job. She had bills, responsibilities, a daughter counting on her. So she went home, sat on her worn couch, and finally let the tears fall. Then she started thinking. Part 5. Gathering strength, Denise spent her 3-day suspension, doing something she rarely allowed herself, thinking carefully about her situation. She pulled out her employee handbook, the one she'd signed years ago but never really studied. She read every page, every policy, every worker protection clause the company claimed to uphold. She took notes in a small spiral notebook, her handwriting careful and deliberate. Then she did something that surprised even herself. She called the corporate human resources hotline listed in the back of the handbook. Her hands trembled as she dialed, but her voice stayed steady as she filed a formal complaint about workplace harassment and unfair treatment. The representative took her statement, assigned her a case number, and promised an investigation. Denise wasn't sure if anything would come of it. Big companies protected managers, not waitresses. But she'd started the paper trail, and that felt like something. On her second day off, her daughter Maya called from college. "Mama, you okay? You sound tired." Denise wanted to protect her from worry, but Maya was 20 years old now. She deserved the truth. "Just some trouble at work, baby. Nothing I can't handle." "Is it that new manager? The one you mentioned?" Maya's voice sharpened with protective anger she'd inherited from her mother. "Mama, if he's discriminating against you, I'm handling it the right way," Denise interrupted gently. "Through proper channels. I'm not giving him ammunition to say I'm difficult or emotional. I'm documenting everything, staying professional." "I'm proud of you," Maya said softly. "But Mama, don't let them break you. You're the strongest person I know." Those words carried Denise through the rest of her suspension. On Monday morning, she returned to Riverside Diner with her head high and her notebook in her purse. Kevin greeted her with a cold smile and a list of new rules clearly designed just for her. No conversations exceeding 2 minutes per table. No personal phone use during shifts. No extended breaks. She signed the acknowledgement form without argument, but something had shifted inside her. She wasn't scared anymore. She was ready. Mr. Lawson returned to his corner booth that same morning. When their eyes met across the diner, his face flooded with relief. Denise brought him his coffee with a genuine smile, brief but warm. "Missed seeing you here, Mr. Lawson." "And I missed your kindness, Miss Denise," he replied quietly. "More than you know." She wanted to say more, but Kevin was watching. So she simply squeezed the old man's shoulder for just a second before moving to her next table. It was a small gesture, but it felt like resistance. Part 6. The unexpected visitor 2 weeks after Denise returned to work. Something unusual happened. It was a Tuesday morning. The diner humming with its typical breakfast crowd. Mr. Lawson sat in his corner booth, reading the newspaper over his eggs and toast. Denise had just refilled his coffee, a quick, professional interaction under Kevin's watchful eye, when the front door chimed. 3 men in expensive suits walked in. They weren't the usual diner crowd. Their shoes were polished leather, their briefcases genuine Italian, their presence commanding in a way that made conversations pause mid-sentence. Behind them came a fourth man, younger, built like he spent his life in the gym, wearing dark sunglasses despite being indoors. The suited men scanned the diner like they were searching for something specific. When their eyes landed on Mr. Lawson's corner booth, they moved toward him with purpose. Kevin intercepted them near the counter, his manager's smile stretching wide. "Gentlemen, welcome to Riverside Diner. Table for 4. The tallest man, silver-haired and distinguished, barely glanced at him. "We're here to see Mr. Lawson. Excuse us." Kevin's smile faltered as they walked past him. Denise watched from behind the coffee station, her heart suddenly racing without understanding why. The 3 suited men approached Mr. Lawson's booth, while the 4th man, clearly security positioned, himself nearby, arms crossed, scanning the room with professional alertness. Mr. Lawson looked up from his newspaper, and his weathered face broke into the warmest smile Denise had ever seen on him. "Thomas, Richard, and Margaret, you came too. You didn't have to make the trip." "Of course we did," the silver-haired man said, his voice cultured and firm. "When you called about the situation here, we moved our schedules immediately." The entire diner had gone quiet. Even the kitchen sounds seemed muted. Everyone was watching this strange cinematic moment unfold. One of the suited women, Margaret, glanced around the diner until her sharp eyes found Denise. "Which one is Miss Harper?" Mr. Lawson turned, catching Denise's stunned expression. His kind eyes crinkled. "That's her. Miss Denise Harper. The angel I told you about." The 3 lawyers, because that's clearly what they were, approached Denise with professional purpose. The silver-haired man extended his hand. "Miss Harper, my name is Thomas Brennan. I'm Mr. Lawson's attorney. We need to speak with you and your manager. Privately, if possible." Denise's mouth went dry. I don't understand. Did I do something wrong?" "Quite the opposite," Margaret said with a slight smile. "But we do need to have a conversation. Is there an office we could use?" Kevin appeared then, his face pale but attempting authority. "I'm the manager here. What's this about?" Thomas Brennan turned to him with the kind of cold professionalism that costs $500 an hour. "Mr. Braddock, I presume? We need to discuss your treatment of Miss Harper and your employment policies. Shall we?" Part 7. The truth unfolds. The office was small and cramped, really just a storage room with a desk where Kevin did paperwork and counted registers. Now it held 3 lawyers, 1 bodyguard standing outside the door, 1 terrified manager, 1 confused waitress, and the weight of something Denise couldn't yet comprehend. Thomas Brennan sat calmly, his leather briefcase open on the desk. Margaret stood beside him, tablet in hand. The 3rd lawyer, Richard, remained by the door, blocking Kevin's only exit. "Let's begin with introductions," Thomas said, his voice measured and professional. "Mr. Lawson, whose full name is Edward James Lawson, is the founder and former CEO of Lawson Industries. Perhaps you've heard of it?" Kevin's face went from pale to gray. Even Denise knew that name. Lawson Industries was one of the largest manufacturing companies in the South, worth billions, employing thousands. Thomas continued. "Mr. Lawson is semi-retired now, living quietly in a private care community about 20 miles from here. 3 months ago, after his wife passed, he fell into a depression. His doctor suggested he get out, interact with people, find small routines that gave him purpose." Denise's hand went to her mouth. She'd been serving breakfast to a billionaire and never knew it. "He chose this diner randomly," Margaret added, her eyes on Denise now, warmer than before. "And he found something unexpected. Genuine human kindness from a waitress who treated him like a person, not a wallet. Who asked about his day. Who brought him extra jam without being asked. Who made him feel seen." Thomas pulled out a folder. Mr. Lawson began documenting his visits. Not intentionally at first, just notes about the bright spot in his mornings. Miss Denise's smile. her gentle questions, the way she made an old man eating alone feel less lonely. He turned his sharp gaze to Kevin. Then he started noticing changes. Miss Harper becoming anxious. Conversations being cut short. The warmth disappearing from her interactions. So he asked her about it, and she was too kind to say. But he observed. He watched you, Mr. Braddock, harassing her, timing her, intimidating her. Kevin stammered. I was just enforcing company policy. You were singling out one employee for behavior that every other waitress here engages in regularly. Richard interrupted coldly. We've been here 3 times in the past week. We've observed. We've documented. Your treatment of Miss Harper constitutes workplace harassment and possibly discrimination. Margaret tapped her tablet. Mr. Lawson called us last week after Miss Harper was suspended for helping him clean up spilled coffee. He was concerned. And honestly, so were we. Thomas leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen, Mr. Braddock. You're going to resign. Today. We'll call it a mutual parting of ways. Or we can contact corporate headquarters, which, interestingly, counts Lawson Industries as one of their largest clients and discuss a formal investigation into your conduct. Kevin's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. Denise finally found her voice. Wait, Mr. Lawson did this. For me? Thomas's expression softened. Mr. Lawson believes in rewarding genuine kindness and protecting good people from small tyrants. Part 8, New Beginnings. The news spread through Riverside Diner like warm honey slow. Sweet and impossible to contain. Kevin Braddock resigned that afternoon, escorted out by Thomas Brennan's security team with his personal belongings in a cardboard box. Corporate called an emergency meeting, apologized profusely to Denise, and promised a full review of management practices. They offered her back pay for her suspension, a formal apology letter, and a promotion to shift supervisor if she wanted it. But the biggest surprise came 3 days later. Mr. Lawson Edward returned to his corner booth for breakfast. This time, Denise sat across from him during her break, no longer afraid of some arbitrary time limit. I still can't believe you did all that, she said, shaking her head in wonder. You didn't have to. Edward's kind gray eyes crinkled. Yes, I did. You gave an old man his dignity back when he'd lost everything else. That's worth more than you know. He slid an envelope across the table. This is for you. Denise opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a check and a letter. The check amount made her gasp enough to pay off her daughter's college loans completely, with money left over. Mr. Lawson, I can't accept. Edward. And yes, you can. You already earned it with months of kindness you gave freely, expecting nothing. Consider it back pay for emotional labor. He smiled. Besides, there's more in the letter. Through tears, Denise read the formal job offer. The Lawson Foundation, Edward's charitable organization, was looking for a community outreach coordinator. Someone with empathy, integrity, and the ability to see people, really see them. The salary was triple what she made at the diner. Full benefits. Flexible hours. I don't have a college degree, Denise whispered. I'm just a waitress. You're a woman who knows how to treat people with dignity and grace. That's the only degree that matters. Edward reached across and squeezed her hand gently. You saved my life, Miss Denise. In those dark months after my wife died, your smile was sometimes the only human warmth I felt. Let me give you a chance to do the same for others. Denise cried right there in the booth, not caring who saw. Rita brought her tissues and hugged her from behind. Other regulars applauded. Even customers who didn't know the full story felt the emotional weight of the moment. 2 weeks later, Denise Harper walked out of Riverside Diner for the last time as an employee. She wore a simple dress instead of her uniform, carried herself with new confidence, and hugged every person who'd supported her Through the hardest weeks, she started her new position the following Monday, working alongside people who valued compassion as much as competence. She helped design programs that fed the hungry, housed the homeless, and gave dignity to people society often overlooked. And every Tuesday morning, she met Edward Lawson for breakfast, not at a fancy restaurant, but back at Riverside Diner, at the same corner booth where their unlikely friendship began. Because some things, Denise learned, were worth more than money or titles. Some things were simple: 2 scrambled eggs, wheat toast, black coffee, and human kindness served without expecting anything in return. That was the secret Edward taught her, and the lesson she'd carry forward into every life she touched. Sometimes the smallest acts of grace create the biggest ripples. Sometimes helping someone feel less alone changes everything. And sometimes justice comes not with thunder and fury, but with quiet dignity and 3 lawyers in expensive suits. Denise Harper learned all of this simply by being herself, humble, kind, and beautifully, powerfully human.